What if I told you that just 5 simple movements could help you avoid the slow decline that traps so many people after 65? And that these same movements, when done correctly and consistently, could keep your joints pain-free, your posture upright, and your confidence strong, even into your 80s or 90s. It might sound too good to be true, but in reality, the path to staying strong and independent doesn't require fancy machines, expensive memberships, or complicated routines. It requires something far more valuable: the right knowledge and the will to act on it. Because here's the hard truth: the body starts to lose muscle, balance, and mobility faster than most people realize. After 60, the average adult loses up to 8% of their muscle mass every decade. And with it, their strength, their ability to get up from a chair without pain, to walk confidently without fear of falling, or even to stand tall without their lower back aching by noon. But here's the hopeful part, and this is important. Research shows that targeted exercise, adapted for older adults, can not only stop this decline, it can reverse it. That means better balance, better mobility, and fewer injuries. And most importantly, a longer, more independent life. In this video, I'll walk you through the 5 most important movements every senior over 65 should be doing regularly. Each one is grounded in science, backed by real-world results, and easy enough to do at home, even if you haven't worked out in years. Along the way, I'll also introduce you to 2 people, one who got this right and one who didn't. And the difference in their quality of life will speak louder than any statistic ever could. If you've ever felt stiff in the morning, nervous about falling, or frustrated by your body not doing what it used to, this video was made for you. Comment number 1 if you're ready. Let's start with something many people overlook: the ability to simply sit down and stand up without using your hands. It sounds basic, but this single movement reveals far more than most realize. It's not just a test of your leg strength, it's a window into your future. When you lose strength in your thighs and hips, every motion becomes harder. Getting out of a chair, climbing into bed, even using the bathroom without assistance. And once these movements become difficult, independence starts to slip away. Frank used to spring out of chairs without thinking, but over time, as he stopped using his legs actively, that power faded. Now he leans forward, pushes off with both arms, and groans as he rises. That strain in his knees, that burn in his thighs, it's his body pleading for attention he didn't give it. Eleanor saw the same warning signs, but instead of ignoring them, she made one small decision: to practice sitting and standing, hands-free every morning. At first, just 5 times, then 10. No gym, no trainer, just a chair and consistency. Today she does 15 perfect chair squats each morning. It takes less than 2 minutes. And yet, it's why she moves through her day with ease, without fear of losing her balance. A 2014 study published in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology found that the ability to sit down and stand up without using hands correlates strongly with longevity. Those who performed poorly had up to 6 times the risk of dying early. This isn't about fitness, it's about freedom. So if standing up from a chair feels harder than it used to, don't ignore it. Start now. Use a sturdy chair. Cross your arms over your chest. Slowly sit, then rise. Even 5 reps can rebuild strength. Now moving to the second factor that silently affects longevity: posture. Not the kind your parents nagged you about at the dinner table. This is deeper. It's about the core muscles that hold your spine. Upright, protect your organs, and stabilize every movement you make. When these muscles weaken, your body collapses inward. You may not notice it at first, a slight forward tilt, a little rounding of the shoulders, but soon it becomes harder to breathe deeply. Your digestion slows, your balance falters, and the aches in your neck and lower back become daily companions. That's exactly what happened to Frank. He began spending more time in his recliner, shoulders slouched, belly relaxed. Within a few years, his posture had changed. His back ached when he stood. His breathing felt shallow. And his doctor warned him. The weakness in his core was making him vulnerable to falls and even compression fractures in his spine. Eleanor's story took a different turn. She read about a simple movement that could restore strength and structure without strain: wall push-offs. Every morning, she stood facing the wall, hands at shoulder height. Slowly, she leaned in, letting her chest approach the wall, then pushed back to standing, focusing on keeping her core tight and shoulders aligned. At first, she barely managed 10. Now she does 20 with ease. These gentle movements reawakened the deep muscles of her abdomen, shoulders, and back. Over time, her posture improved. She stood taller. Her breathing deepened, and friends began to comment on how strong and energized she looked, without knowing why. Studies show that posture and core strength aren't just cosmetic. They're vital indicators of physical resilience, especially in older adults. A 2020 analysis in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience confirmed that poor posture significantly increases the risk of frailty and cognitive decline. So, if you've noticed yourself leaning forward or struggling with back pain, start with the wall. Your body and your future will thank you. The first thing that often goes unnoticed is how quietly the body begins to stiffen. You don't wake up one day unable to move your shoulders or turn your neck. It happens slowly, subtly, a little less reach here, a little more resistance there, until one day, putting on a sweater feels like a struggle. Reaching the top shelf becomes impossible. And the pain isn't just in the joints, it's in the frustration of being limited by your own body. Frank knows this feeling too well. Over the years, his joints became tight. His shoulders lost mobility. He told himself it was just age, but every movement became harder, and because it hurt to move, he moved even less. It was a vicious cycle. Eventually, he had to stop driving, because turning his head to check his blind spot became too painful and dangerous. Eleanor took another path. She began each morning with what she calls her morning check-in. No equipment, just gentle movements, arm circles, shoulder rolls, neck turns, and slow ankle rotations. It takes 5 minutes, but that short, daily ritual preserved her joints, kept inflammation low, and helped her detect tightness before it became pain. There's real science behind her habit. A study from the Journal of Rheumatology showed that older adults who performed daily range of motion routines reported significantly less joint pain, stiffness, and functional limitation compared to those who remained inactive. Flexibility isn't about performing yoga poses or touching your toes. It's about freedom, the freedom to reach, twist, bend, and stretch without fear. If your joints feel stiff when you wake up, if your neck feels tight after a walk, it's not just wear and tear, it's a signal. And the good news? Gentle. Movement can restore what age tries to take away. Here's the fourth behavior that slowly undermines your health, and most people don't notice it until it's too late: the loss of balance. It doesn't announce itself with pain. It doesn't show up on scans. It reveals itself in subtle ways. The way you grip the handrail a little tighter, hesitate before stepping onto uneven ground, or shuffle your feet when you used to stride confidently. Frank experienced this firsthand. One rainy afternoon, he stepped off the curb and lost his footing. The fall bruised more than his hip. It bruised his confidence. Since then, he avoids walking outdoors when it's wet. He avoids stairs, busy sidewalks, even long grocery aisles. The fear of falling changed how he moved through the world. Eleanor took a quieter but more powerful approach. She read about a simple balance test, standing on one leg for 10 seconds. At first, she wobbled, but she didn't give up. She made it part of her morning ritual, brushing her teeth while standing on one leg, holding onto the counter at first, then letting go. 10 seconds became 15, then 20, then, over time, her ankles strengthened, her reflexes sharpened, and most importantly, her confidence returned. There's a reason this works. A 2022 study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that adults over 70 who couldn't stand on one leg for 10 seconds had nearly double the risk of dying in the next decade, regardless of weight, age, or underlying conditions. Balance isn't just about not falling. It's a direct reflection of your nervous system, your muscular coordination, and your overall vitality. So here's a challenge. Stand barefoot near a wall or counter. Try balancing on one leg, just 10 seconds. Notice what your body tells you. And then, make it a daily practice. You don't need perfection, you need consistency. Up next, the fifth pattern that deserves attention, the slow loss of overhead mobility. Most people don't realize how much they rely on the ability to reach up until they can't. It affects how you grab a dish from a cabinet, hang up a coat, or pull a shirt over your head. And when your shoulders become restricted, your neck, spine, and even your breathing begin to suffer. Frank remembers when lifting his arms wasn't a problem, but over time, stiffness crept in. He stopped reaching overhead because it felt uncomfortable. His shoulders adapted by tightening further. Then came the headaches, the tension in his neck, the awkward twist just to get dressed. He blamed it on getting older, never realizing it was the lack of movement that caused the pain, not age itself. Eleanor had different instincts. Years ago, she learned about the connection between shoulder mobility and long-term health. So every day she performed slow, controlled overhead reaches. Standing tall, arms by her sides, she would lift both arms straight up, stretch, hold, for a few seconds, then lower them. Nothing fancy, but incredibly effective. This one movement kept her shoulders open, her spine aligned, and her neck pain-free. It also helped her avoid the all-too-common posture of the aging adult, hunched forward, arms close to the body, afraid to move freely. Research from the Journal of Geriatric Physical Therapy confirms that preserving overhead range of motion is directly linked to improved balance, breathing efficiency, and reduced risk of shoulder injury in older adults. If reaching overhead feels tight or restricted, don't push through pain, but don't avoid it either. Gentle daily movements can slowly restore what stiffness has stolen. Try this today. Stand. Lift your arms slowly above your head. Reach and breathe. Hold it for a few seconds. Feel your body open up. It's not just a stretch. It's a message to your muscles that you still need them. Finally, there's one last habit that might surprise you. Walking. But not just walking for the sake of moving. Walking with intention. Most people assume walking is enough, that as long as they're getting their steps in, they're maintaining their health. But there's a difference between shuffling from room to room and walking in a way that truly strengthens the body. Frank walks, yes, but without engagement. His steps are slow, his gaze downward, shoulders hunched. It's more about getting from point A to point B. Over time, This kind of walking stopped offering benefits. It even contributed to joint pain and poor posture. His gait shortened, his balance declined. His muscles didn't get the activation they needed. Eleanor, on the other hand, treats walking like a practice. She lifts her chest, engages her core, takes deliberate strides, focusing on posture, heel-to-toe motion, and breath. She walks with presence. Sometimes it's just around the block. Sometimes it's longer. But every step is part of her routine, not just for movement, but for vitality. This small difference has a massive impact. Studies in the Journal of Aging and Physical Activity reveal that intentional walking, with posture awareness and full body engagement, improves cardiovascular health, muscle tone, and even cognitive function. It's not about speed, it's about quality. Eleanor's walk activates her glutes, aligns her spine, and strengthens her legs with every step. Frank's walk, on the other hand, reflects his fear, a quiet retreat from the world, step by cautious step. So the next time you walk, ask yourself, am I moving with intention or just moving? Take a few minutes today. Stand tall, pull your shoulders back, walk slowly, deliberately. Let every step remind your body and your brain that you're still in charge. So what do we make of it all? Aging isn't something we can stop, but decline. That's often a choice, or rather, the result of thousands of small choices made every day. Frank didn't make one big mistake. He simply let time pass without paying attention to what his body was asking for. Each ache, each moment of hesitation, each avoided movement, they added up. Not overnight, but gradually. Until independence felt fragile. Eleanor, on the other hand, didn't chase youth. She didn't obsess over fitness. She simply stayed connected to her body. She listened. She moved. She made time for the basics, not because they were urgent, but because they mattered. The exercises we explored, chair squats, wall push-offs, range of motion work, balance training, overhead reaches, intentional walking, they aren't complicated. They don't require equipment or even much space. What they do require is something deeper. Awareness, consistency, and the belief that you are still capable of strength, stability, and self-reliance. Science supports this over and over again. Muscles respond to movement even after decades of neglect. Joints adapt, balance improves, and perhaps most powerful of all, confidence returns. If Frank's story feels familiar, it's not too late. If Eleanor's path inspires you, it's more achievable than you think. Every step, every stretch, every squat is an act of reclaiming your body, of choosing vitality over resignation, and of proving that the years behind you do not define the life ahead. If this message spoke to you, if you feel the truth of it in your bones, then now is the time to act. Comment below. Tell us where you're starting from. Like this video if it gave you hope. Subscribe if you want more strength, more wisdom, and more life in the years to come. And don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss a moment that matters. Your future is still being written. Let's make it strong.